But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And, well, it's been a hell of a week, yet again, as per usual. And I've got a few interesting things I think we could look at. How's everybody doing? Let's just see what I've got here. We've got some Xanderhal, we've got some Muppet, we've got Ethan Clown, we've got Caitlin Bennett as well. We've got all sorts of bullshit. But there's one thing I actually kind of wanted to start out with. This was something that showed up in the Resistance Music and Media Telegram channel. Which, for anyone who's interested, I'm going to just drop the link in chat in a second, once I find it. This is a direct link. There was a video that they released that is from Al Jazeera Arabic with English subtitles. That was a rare interview with members of the Qassam Brigades in Gaza in the tunnels. That was quite interesting. It's a long interview. I'm not going to show the whole thing. But let me just... Okay. I've only just created this particular window capture. There was one bit that I thought was particularly worth watching. I wanted to show once I get this arranged in a somewhat sensible way. Okay, find my windows. $12.57. Okay, here we go. Let me just make sure. Wait, why is that not? Why is that not showing anything? Will it not allow me to full screen? Sorry about this, chat. How's everybody doing while I figure this out?
رواية وللشائعات.
Okay, that is strange. It's not... allowing me to show that. Actually, let me try something else. Okay, this is strange. Hello, River Rune. Yes. So I'm trying to show a video. Okay, there we go. On Windows, for some reason, Windows 10 1903 and up, that works. Okay. Because there was one bit of this interview, which I've linked in chat. It's from Al Jazeera Arabic. It's got English subs, but it was in the Telegraph channel Resistance Music and Media. And there was one bit that was really... let's see. Here we go. Now, okay, now it's working. Now, okay, I'm just going to read this for anyone who's listening. I'm going to read the subtitles. The occupation, this is what the interviewer is asking. The occupation promotes a narrative and rumors through private media outlets, the most recent of which was a statement by the Occupation Army spokesperson.
وكان آخرها المتحدث باسم جيش الاحتلال قال أن
Hamas is using hospitals and civilians as human shields. Something we've also heard, of course, from Ethan Klein, a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause.
حماس تستخدم المستشفيات وتستخدم المدنيين كدروع.
The reason I'm showing this is the Qassam commander's answer is remarkable.
العدو الصهيوني قام بنفسه بنشر العديد من الفيديوهات حول اقتحام.
So, again, for anyone who's listening, I'm going to read the subtitles. He says, the Zionist enemy itself has published numerous videos of the storming of hospitals, particularly the Martyrs Hospital in Gaza City. If we watch these videos together, we see that they targeted children, women, patients, medical staff, and press crews.
إذا ما يعني شاهدناها جميعا نرى أنها كانت تستهدف الأطفال والنساء والمرضى والطواقم الطبية والطواقم الصحفية ولم نرى.
We did not see any fighters in them, nor did we witness any fighting in these hospitals, which were humanitarian and treatment areas for patients.
فيها مقاتلين ولم نرى قتالا في هذه المستشفيات التي يعني كانت مناطق إنسانية ومناطق يعني لعلاج المرضى إلا أن هذا العدو.
However, this enemy attacked these areas, besieged them, and closed them in to pressure the Palestinian people. Now, the bit that I'm showing this for, which is coming right up, because I mean, I think everybody watching this certainly knows this.
بضرب هذه المناطق وحصارها والإقباض عليها من أجل الضغط على أبناء الشعب الفلسطيني. فنحن في هذا.
Here we ask a question, and here it comes. Why can the enemy spot a fighter or a number of fighters in some hospitals and humanitarian sites, as it claims, but not spot the fighters setting up ambushes and traps for them?
يستطيع العدو أن يرصد مقاتل أو عدد من المقاتلين في بعض المستشفيات أو في بعض الأماكن الإنسانية كما يدعي. ولا يستطيع أن يرصد المقاتلين الذين يعدون له الكمائن والفخاخ. ولا يستطيع
Why can't it spot the fighters who climb onto their videos and destroy them, kill their soldiers, and fight them from point-blank range?
أن يرصد المقاتلين الذين يعتنون آلياته ويدمرونها ويقتلون.
I mean, just this response. I mean, obviously the claim is bullshit. Like, there's no advantage to using hospitals as military positions against Israel, because the only reason there's ever an advantage to do that is because they're supposed to be immune from attack. But nothing is immune to attack by Israel. Like, there would be absolutely no point. Being in a hospital actually increases your likelihood of getting killed. So, I mean, it's obviously bullshit, but the way that they're responding to this, that just utterly cooks them on every fucking level. I mean, it's just such an obvious question he's asking. How can it not spot them when it possesses all this equipment, all this intelligence, all the day and night vision devices it possesses? It can spot one or two fighters in a densely populated residential area, but not the fighters in the battlefield? They left something out in that subtitle. He said, "We're in a humanitarian area. A residential area or a humanitarian area. This enemy is a liar and is a coward. It can only fight women and children." Okay, I mean, as I said, this is a longer interview. Definitely worth watching. I'm dropping the link here. It's on the Resistance Music and Media Telegram channel. And it's quite good. It's one of the rare press interviews that there have been with Qassam fighters since this genocide began, and it's quite good, and it dispels some other misconceptions as well, such as a lot of misconceptions around what tunnels are used for, because as the journalist points out at the very beginning, he can barely breathe in the tunnel because they don't have any, HVAC ductwork in there. And they point out that actually nobody spends any real length of time in them. They're just a means of transport to get from point A to point B, because you couldn't spend very long in them. They are essentially CO2 sinks, and CO2 is heavier than oxygen. They are extremely hard to breathe in. But I just thought it was just remarkable how they responded to this bullshit about supposedly, Hamas command centers under hospitals and stuff like that. And it's just, how is it they're so great? They're supposedly so good that they can see, two fighters amongst 1 million people in a humanitarian area, but they can't see us when we're coming right at them? Which is a pretty good question, and points out just how, at the same time as pointing out how full of shit they are, it also points out how utterly worthless their army is, except as a fucking genocidal goon squad. But, so I wasn't going to show the whole thing, but if you want to see the whole thing, I just dropped the link in chat. I just thought that was really good. Really sort of comprehensive response, and it was quite interesting. But, okay. Okay. We've got a number of options here. There's a video. We watched a little bit of Hassan responding to this, and it looked really good. Slop tube and weaponized ignorance. We've also got Caitlin Bennett, who is apparently asking people, acting like this is a wild idea to jail Kyle Rittenhouse, but not jail workers without legal status. Like, that is such a wild thing to be demanding. Actually, let's start out with that. We haven't looked at her in a little bit. We have looked at quite a lot of Ethan. So we're gonna start out with this. It's called Jail Kyle Rittenhouse, Free the Illegals. And yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump's first week in office. How would you grade him?
Probably with a punch to the face. As a gay woman in America that's married to, or like partnered with another woman that's undocumented, absolutely not.
Okay, let me just say, piece of advice here. Don't do this. Like, if you've got a friend, if you've got somebody who is close to you, somebody who is linked to you legally in some way, like that they can be looked up, and their legal status is open to question, don't tell people that. Don't tell the fucking press that. Certainly don't tell Caitlyn fucking Bennett that. You think that she's gonna be nice about, you know, she's gonna do the right thing and keep that information to herself? Like, seriously, don't do what this woman just did. Don't ever do that, because, I mean, that's the shit that gets people, picked up.
Considering what he just passed, she won't be allowed to stay here. Kyle Rittenhouse, what's he doing? He should be in prison. Literally, as a white cis man in America, he can get away with murder, and he did. No.
Yeah, wait, okay. See, is she... I mean, yeah, exactly. That is literally what happened, and she's like, is she gonna try to explain why this is unreasonable?
I don't believe that undocumented humans should be arrested and picked up and deported.
Like, okay, so the wild, unbelievable radical position here is that a white supremacist mass shooter should do time, but that people who don't have legal status in the U.S. should not. So we're going to see how this works.
Donald Trump's first week in office. How would you grade him?
Like, great. It sounds like she said great, and it's like, well, I guess with one of those microplane ones, but, like, that doesn't... I don't know. I wouldn't grade him at all. Like, what am I going to grade him onto? That sounds disgusting.
Probably with a punch to the face. I cannot stand that man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the reaction. Number one, that's exactly what I'm going for.
Yeah, you see, you should not. Okay, the wild thing is, it's like normally I would say don't give them what they want, but the thing is, Caitlyn Bennett is bad at this. Her whole idea is that she's supposed to be showing libs being really unreasonable. It's supposed to be like some sort of fucking right-wing cringe compilation, and yet everybody she talks to ends up sounding way more reasonable than she does.
Strong feelings out here. Okay. Why?
Wow, I mean, that's so wild that people would have strong feelings about this.
Why would you grade him with a punch in the face?
As a gay woman in America that's married to, or like partnered with another woman that's undocumented, like a child of immigrants, absolutely not.
Okay.
Wait.
She's documented, but her parents weren't.
Oh, okay. Well, still, like, don't go telling the fucking right-wing media, don't go telling the press that you know somebody who hasn't got their papers in order. Just don't fucking do that.
So, therefore, considering what he just passed, she won't be allowed to stay here.
Okay.
And she's in the military, so they are allowed to kick her out based on sexual orientation.
Okay.
Because she's gay.
And which, actually, that isn't correct. They can't kick her out based on sexual orientation. If she was trans, or they want to claim she's trans even though she isn't, or something like that, they're coming up with... Some of the proposals are extremely broad and vague, unsurprisingly. But, no, I mean, actually, they would actually have to change the law. They would have to change an act of Congress to kick people out for being gay at this point. Because, like, literally the only time there has been any kind of legislation against discrimination against LGBT people was the law that abolished Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Like, that was it. That's like the one bit of protection that exists.
That's a lot to unravel. So the executive orders, that was really my next question was, which executive order can you point to and say, this one I'm most worried about?
The civil rights movement being neglected, basically, just overturned entirely.
Neglected?
Okay.
I don't think the civil rights movement is being so much neglected as, like, just a further attempt to reverse every single game that it made.
Was that one of his executive orders, like overturning the civil rights movement?
Yes, all day.
I mean, trying to.
Okay. Which I honestly have not heard about that one.
See, some people say honestly and they're being honest, but and other people say honestly and they're full of shit. I can actually buy that she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about because she's just so bad at this.
What was it called?
They all have really long-ass names, and the thing is what she described, like an anti-civil rights executive order, there've been like 20 of them.
I'm not sure exactly what.
Like overturning, like, no more civil rights?
I mean, which one is she talking about? Because there's like the anti-DEI one, and let's just remember, DEI is literally just compliance with the Civil Rights Act. I mean, you have the various anti-trans ones, those are anti-civil rights. Yeah, there was one that was claiming that it was divisive to acknowledge that race is a social construct and not a biological reality. That was anti-civil. Like, I mean, what she described is, like, practically all of his fucking executive orders.
I don't know. I don't know what he called it, but I'm pretty sure.
They also have long and not very memorable names.
That's what he's doing. He's overturning the civil rights movement entirely by doing that. Allowed to discriminate. Workers are allowed to discriminate against, like, who they hire based on sexual orientation, gender, color, all of that.
I mean, that is the goal of them. It's worth noting that actually, I mean, the Supreme Court actually decided in Bostock that LGBT people are included within the concept of sex discrimination. So that is certainly the intent. It is certainly being read that way, and people will try to use it that way. The degree to which that will stand up in court remains to be seen, but that is certainly the fucking intent. And she's certainly not wrong there.
He made that, like, with executive orders, you're now allowed to discriminate who you hire based on.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, he tried to. The thing is, his executive orders aren't worth the paper they're written on.
I've not heard about that.
The United States Navy just put out an executive order saying that that is allowed, and that they are allowed to basically not prosecute, but dismiss people based on that information.
You mentioned your friend's parents were here. They're here illegally.
Yeah, and again, don't do that. Especially don't tell fucking Caitlin Bennett this.
And so she's worried about her citizenship status, basically?
Well, she was born here.
Yeah.
So so she's a citizen. She's not documented, she's literally a citizen.
Both of her biological parents were immigrants.
Okay.
And
legal or
no?
No, illegal.
No, they were both undocumented.
Okay.
They are both dead.
Oh, okay.
So she.
Okay, okay. In which case, this. Then it's actually, if they're dead, then it's certainly safe to talk about them in that sense. But otherwise, if you know somebody who's alive and their papers are open to question, don't tell somebody who sticks a microphone in your face.
That's not good.
But yeah, she's a child of immigrants, and she's now in the United States Air Force.
Okay.
And she's just worried that she could be discriminated in that sense, as well as being gay, woman, brown. Being brown.
So we hit all the points. All the points. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that is definitely troubling. Well, good news is Trump's only going after the illegals in the country who.
No, first of all, This is such bullshit. And let me just say, I say this often, and probably people in chat do not need to hear this, but anyone who's watching who does need to hear this, the concept of illegal immigrant is not a legal concept. And in fact, the majority of people who are here without legal status did not enter the country they entered the country by the normal legal means. It's just that for one reason or another, they lost their legal status. So this whole, I mean, the way that they phrase this, it's complete bullshit. 90% of the people that they're talking about are people who came in the normal way, you know, through passport control, through customs, all that shit, had legal status at some point, and because it's extremely easy to lose legal status in the US, they lost it.
Have committed a further crime. So as long as, like,
that isn't a crime, though.
Crime that you know is undocumented, they should be good.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally not true. I mean, Mahmoud Khalil had a fucking green card. He's not the only green card holder who got it. There was actually just recently a Danish guy who was, like, picked up for no apparent reason at his fucking citizenship interview. That he's not the only one. There was somebody else who also... Was that Rumeysa Öztürk? I don't think so. I think that was somebody else. I forget his name. He was released. But, yeah, I mean, the idea that this is just people who don't have legal status is obviously just bullshit. And even if it was just against people who don't have legal status, fuck that. Nobody should give a fuck whether people have legal status or not. It is a bullshit concept that only exists in order to make non-citizen workers cheaper and more disposable.
So as long as just tell your undocumented friends, like, don't commit crimes.
What?
You should be good.
Then why is ICE going to schools?
See, she's not very good at this. Again, this is what I always say. She's just not good at this, because now the thing about posting videos is that you're supposed to, when you do this sort of thing, the reason you don't include the bits where they fucking clown on you.
Because there's probably people there who have committed crimes that are not supposed to be in the country, that the
That's not the same thing.
Biden administration has let remain in the country.
Children?
Children?
We're going to elementary schools.
And they're rounding up children?
Yeah, yes!
Which elementary school?
Like, what, you're supposed to just know the list of all the fucking elementary schools they've targeted?
I don't know.
I mean, there was one in Chicago. Who gives a fuck? I mean, the point is...
Where did that happen?
ICE has been, like, going to different schools to get undocumented children.
Okay.
I mean, and it's worth noting, again, not necessarily... The term undocumented is also an inaccurate term. Because undocumented suggests that they did not come in... they did not come in through the normal route, and so there's nothing on paper saying they're in the country, and that's simply not how this normally works.
So perhaps, I don't know what you're talking about, but off the top of my head...
I mean, she doesn't know what she's talking about herself, either.
I would see that as they're undocumented children. Their parents have probably been detained in some sense from ICE. And so the best thing would be...
Well, the best thing would be to release them, surely. And maybe to leave them the fuck alone.
Is to go get the children, to house them somewhere else, instead of having them go home and their parents aren't there.
So, the best thing to do is just, like, do some child trafficking. That's neat. Lovely.
That's still so fucked to me.
I'm not...
Yeah. It is.
I'm not saying that it's not.
Then, well, you just said it was the best thing, though.
But I'm saying they're definitely not rounding up children.
Yes, they literally are. That's what you just...
And just deporting them. They're probably...
Yeah, they literally are, though.
Something happened with the parents, and they're going and getting the children, so the children aren't going home to no one there. And
I mean, this is just
no one
bullshit.
to take care of them. Which, if they're going to do A, I guess it's responsible to do B.
Well, then maybe they should just not do A, though.
Have you ever seen what an ICE facility looks like?
I've seen pictures.
It's fucking vile.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well, then maybe... Wait, so, okay. So the responsible thing is to put them in what she agrees is a vile concentration camp, because they already did that to the parents. Like...
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I don't think that taking them out of their school with peers and a teacher that loves them is appropriate at all. I don't think that coming out of school is appropriate at all. I don't think that...
So would it be better if their parents got arrested because they're perhaps
No.
criminal aliens? That they do get picked up by ICE and
Like, no.
held somewhere instead of going home to no one being there?
Well, maybe the parents should just be left the fuck alone.
No, because I personally believe that they shouldn't be detained in the first place. There is no
Yes.
such thing as an illegal. What is an illegal human? That's
Yeah, I mean, and what she's saying here, it's worth noting, I mean, it's not just a moral statement. Literally, even U.S. law does not have this concept. It is a nonsense concept. Hello, Badger.
fucking wild.
Well, no, it's not that the people themselves, it's not illegal to be a human from any country. It's that the people coming here...
Oh, I hope the kid who's throwing whatever the hell they're throwing to each other hits Caitlin with it.
And just crossing our border, that their status, their immigration status, and their citizenship status is what's illegal.
No,
Because they came here illegally.
but that's not how, I mean, that's not how any of that works.
Then why is it so hard to get citizenship?
I don't know, I'm not a lawmaker.
Like, maybe you shouldn't be having, like, all these fucking opinions on this subject if you don't know anything about any of this stuff, though. You know?
And I'm not saying that our immigration laws are perfect, but I do
Wow, I mean, that's big of her.
know that the Biden administration let in a ton of people.
This is actually bullshit. I mean, the Biden administration broke deportation records, as the Obama administration did before it. Trump is not deporting as many people as Biden. Biden actually expanded the ban on, like, people just applying for asylum. I mean, what she's saying is just complete nonsense.
Especially criminals, and especially the person who murdered Laken Riley. I don't know if you've heard about Laken Riley.
Who gives a fuck?
But that is someone who should have been deported because he committed a crime, but instead he was let go. He's not even held by the police department, and he...
Well, yeah, because it was not a custodial sentence. Like, not every single offense actually involves a custodial sentence.
went and he murdered her. So that's examples of people Trump is taking out of the country.
No, it's really not, though.
And I think that's a good thing. We shouldn't have people here who came into our country illegally and then committed a further crime.
Yeah, it's not actually...
They kind of lost their ability to be on our soil if they're going to commit crimes against people that are living...
Well, but what about most of the crimes, though? Like, most of the people who commit crimes against people in the U.S. are people who have every legal right to be in the U.S. So, like, U.S. citizens, even. That's who's doing most of the crime in the U.S. is people with U.S. citizenship. So, by this definition... sorry. Then maybe, like... everybody should just be kicked out of the U.S.?
Here and that are citizens.
I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
No, the rates of the serial killers that happen in our country, they're all white men.
They're not all white men. So
yeah, they're not all. They're mostly, though.
most serial killers. So how would you define a serial killer?
Like, okay, why are we talking about serial killers? That is not like the normal.
Or just...
That isn't like the normal sort of crime that gets committed.
You know, mass murders in general.
Yeah, most of those are
okay.
gangs, and most gang members are not white.
That's not true.
if you're talking about in a social setting, schools, churches, all of that that's happened in the last.
Okay, so she just she misused serial killers. She's talking about mass shooters
They're all white
who are overwhelmingly not just white dudes but like Nazis.
white men. And Kyle Rittenhouse, what's he doing?
I'm not sure. I could probably text him.
Probably.
Yeah.
I
could probably, hey, Kyle.
Well, yeah, so she was just talking about how she doesn't like people committing crimes against people in the U.S. and they should be kicked out of the country, and she's like, oh, well, maybe I could just text Kyle. I mean, if it won't scare him, because he does scare easily. There was, like, a protest at some fucking public appearance he was gonna do, because apparently, like, getting away with murder makes you a fucking celebrity for the far right. And he just sort of ran away when he saw that there was a protest, because he's fucking pathetic.
So go on, what are you up to these days?
The fact that he has a phone is crazy. He should be in prison.
For what?
Well, the fucking murders.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. What should he be in prison for? He was.
The murders, like, you mean other than the murders? Because the murders should be enough. That's supposedly how it works.
Found not guilty, and he used self-defense to save his life.
That's bullshit. His life was never in any threat. And he created the situation. I mean, he literally was pointing a gun at a bunch of unarmed protesters. He went out of his way to have an opportunity to point a gun and put a bunch of unarmed protesters in fear for their lives. They were acting in self-defense.
From a person who already has a record of murdering somebody else.
That's
what should he be
bullshit.
in jail
I mean,
for?
Why was he there in the first place?
He was defending his property, and he was helping
no, he
his
wasn't.
friend.
That wasn't his property. Like, it wasn't even in his home state.
Defend their properties.
It wasn't his property. His mom dropped him off. It's not.
He was helping his friends
i.e. fellow white nationalists.
defend their property, and
By which she means pointing guns at protesters.
why were the BLM rioters there?
They were protesting because the cops tried to murder somebody again.
Why wouldn't they be?
Why would they be? It's not their property.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, it was a public thoroughfare. That's kind of where people go to do protest marches.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so it matters that Kyle's there, so he had no reason to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because he doesn't own any property. They weren't aggressive. He had to shoot them to defend his life.
No, I mean, they were... This is just so wild. The way they can just sort of retcon the chronology as if the fact that, you know, people find all these fucking white nationalists with guns, that does not, it does not obviously put them in fear for their lives.
Because they chased him with a gun.
No, they didn't chase him with a gun. Nobody chased him with a gun. Nobody even claims that he was chased with a gun. The only gun was the one he had and his, like, fellow fucking Nazi fuckers had.
He's a white man. I'm sure he did. And he got away with it. Love that for him.
No, he didn't get away with anything because he didn't do anything wrong. But
I mean, apart from the fucking murders.
what's him being white have to do with it?
Oh, well...
Explain.
Literally, as a white cis man in America, he can get away with murder, and he did.
No, he was found not guilty.
Oh, yeah, despite the fact that he very clearly was guilty.
And he defended his life against
Shut the fuck up.
another white man.
I don't believe that for a second.
He fired at random into a crowd of protesters.
Do you think if someone's chasing you and saying, get him with a gun, were you there?
No, I wasn't. Okay. I wasn't.
It's funny that you're...
I mean, I love how she just gets to kind of create this entire fucking Kyle Rittenhouse fucking headcanon.
These standards to make an opinion, but you also have opinions, and neither of us were there. No.
Yeah, but you're just making shit up, though.
So, I mean, hold yourself to the same standard. I would appreciate that.
Well, I mean, the standard seems to be don't make shit up.
But, again, he defended himself.
No, he literally didn't.
This is so far in the past, anyway. And
Wow, yeah, it's ages. It's like 5 whole years ago. I mean, do archaeologists even know how to dig that deep?
we're so against people committing crimes and getting away with it. But what about, again, the illegal aliens that we're talking about?
Wow, I mean, she got her. Fucking cooked her. Because, you see, she doesn't think that people, white supremacists should be allowed to shoot randomly into crowds, but she thinks that non-citizens shouldn't be picked up for having their papers not in order.
Talking about committing
That's because that's totally the equivalent thing.
crimes. You want them to get away with it, but you think Kyle Rittenhouse should be in jail for defending himself. And was found not guilty by a jury of his peers.
I'm sure he was found not guilty. He's a white cis man in America. However, no, I don't believe that undocumented humans should be arrested and picked up and deported. There is not a chance in hell that, there's no...
I mean, what just gets me again is the whole point of this sort of thing is supposedly a gotcha moment. That's where you film this. Except that she sucks at it. So instead, all it is people pointing out why she's full of shit.
There's no way that if I was trying to better my life, better my family's life, and do that for my family, travel across borders, do all of that, that you should be picked up by ICE. And
I told you again, that's not what's happening. Just because you're undocumented doesn't mean you're being rounded up.
Wait a second. Now she's saying just because you're undocumented doesn't... she needs to fucking make up her mind.
You've committed a crime. The executive order is about criminal aliens.
No, it
People
isn't.
enter the country illegally and then committed a further crime.
That's not true.
Or being deported because
being
Biden
here is a crime in itself.
I agree with you.
That's enough of a crime for them to be arrested.
But that's not.
Yeah, except it actually is not a crime. Being here without legal status is not. Let me just be very clear on this. You're not violating the criminal law by being here without legal status.
What they're doing.
But it's happening.
That's not what they're doing.
It's happening.
There is no one that's been deported by the Trump administration in the last week that has just been deported because they've, I agree with you, committed the crime of coming in here illegally.
Except, they're not, for the most part, people who came in here illegally.
There's no one.
I mean, she's just making this shit up.
They've only been deported if they have a criminal track record or...
What the hell is a criminal track record?
If they commit a crime and get picked up by the police and are deported. Or
okay.
charged with a crime.
This is getting very repetitive, so I think we're going to cut this one short. So, we've got some Xanderhal. Protesters keep getting arrested. Suddenly, Xanderhal is willing to call what's going on in Gaza a genocide now that it's no longer Biden, which is interesting. Border Patrol almost got Hassan, so apparently Xanderhal is going to gloat over that. Then some Destiny bullshit. And also, Xanderhal wants to talk about the so-called male loneliness epidemic. There's also Ethan, the three bozos of the apocalypse. I think we're going to look at Xanderhal. With his swastika-looking fucking emblem.
Think that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris were willing to go far enough to prevent Israel from murdering innocent Palestinians or not?
Whether they were willing to go far enough to prevent it? This is from 11 days ago, it's worth noting. By this time, there had been an expose on an Israeli investigative journalism show called Hamakor, which means The Source, where all of Biden's top people who were involved in working with Israel on the genocide were talking about how literally never once did Biden ever actually demand a ceasefire or do anything to stop them, that he actually, in fact, ordered Israel to withhold aid from Palestinians. That, I mean, the Israeli ambassador actually, at the time, said that Israel should thank God that Biden was the U.S. president during the genocide, because he let them do everything and never once said ceasefire now, and as he said, you can't take that for granted. So what Xanderhal here is saying is just complete bullshit.
At the very least, I think we can all admit, if we're being honest, that at least under the Democrats...
Well, if we're being honest, I mean, that would be a nice change for you, for Xanderhal here.
Nothing like this was happening.
Yeah,
things are getting...
Like, for example, nothing like what exactly?
Bad. Because at least 78 people were arrested by the NYPD at Columbia University.
Wait, nothing like this was happening at Columbia University? Motherfucker, a documentary just came out. A documentary just came out about the level of police violence against protesters at Columbia University specifically during the encampments. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
After a pro-Palestine, Israel-critical protest at said university.
So, I mean, that is literally what has happened every time.
Basically, like, took over the library and a few other parts of campus, as protests sometimes do on campuses. And they obviously made an example out of these anti-Israel protesters, because very soon being against Israel will be probably charged in the same way as committing a hate crime.
I mean, he's literally describing what happened during the encampments under Biden here.
Probably by the end of the year, and they are pretty much on the fast track to making it illegal to protest Israel. And
what this is just wild. How much effort do you have to go to avoid knowing that this has been going on for a long time?
We're watching that unfold right now.
We were watching it unfold last year too, though, Zan. And I remember you making excuses for it then.
Not only is the genocide that Israel is committing against Palestinians gotten way, way worse. But
that is not really true either. It is exactly the same. There's literally nothing that Biden was not doing that Israel could do. The murdering huge numbers of people in hospitals and encampments, the fucking tent encampments, the keeping out aid, all of that stuff was been going on for 19 months, apart from a brief respite between like January and March. Ceasefire that only the Palestinian resistance observed. Like, he is just trying to retcon the past year and a half.
On top of that, very soon, you may face real prison time if you dare to protest it. So if you guys don't believe me...
I mean, people were already charged with felonies for protesting the genocide back last year. That's not very soon. That's already happened. In fact, just recently, the Michigan Attorney General, who came under criticism because she did not charge neo-Nazis with felonies over rallies they did where they committed like actual crimes, but she did commit, anti-genocide protesters, did charge them with felonies. Somebody pointed out that this was a pretty clear case of bias. It was a ridiculous case, and she just recently just dropped the charges because there were so many irregularities in the way that the case was brought in the first place that it was going to be extremely embarrassing if it went to court. So, like, the things he's talking about, and this is 11 days ago, again. This is very recent, Stuff he's talking about that's going to be happening pretty soon has been happening already.
Let's take a look at this story. People requested that I cover this, but I wasn't able to last stream, so we're getting to it now. I really do want to talk about this. I have a lot to say.
With some breaking news to tell you about right now. Within the last few minutes, Columbia University directing NYPD onto their campus to remove protesters who
Not the first time. This is not the first time. They did this already last year.
refused to leave the school's library. Now, you can see police officers, some of them even in riot gear, removing some of those students in zip ties, and right outside clashes between police and protesters.
I mean, again, like, is he just going to pretend that this didn't happen last year at the encampment at Columbia? Is he seriously going to pretend that didn't happen before?
Turned violent with those heavy metal barriers being pushed into the air. And this is what the scene looked like inside a Butler library a little bit earlier. Students protesting in a standoff with school public safety officers. The school saying 2 of those officers were hurt. Outside, a large group of students gathered earlier, attempting to force their way into the library. Remember, the school was the site of those encampments last year.
Yeah, wait, the news presenter is pointing out that this isn't the first time that this happened. This happened last year. Is this going to make a little light bulb go on around Xanderhal's head where he realizes, oh, right, this isn't new. This is literally a rerun of last year?
Here protesting Israel's war in Gaza, now a major target of President Trump over allegations of anti-Semitism. Let's get right over to NBC's Emily.
So, we got to talk about this because it does happen. And I don't think that, as advocates for Palestinians to not be murdered,
Which, I mean, Xanderhal isn't. We have to be very clear. Like, Noah Samson did not include him in the screenshot of the YouTubers who backed a genocide, but he absolutely could go on there because he did do that thing.
should ignore
in the most dishonest and cowardly possible way.
Like, I don't think this is something we should ignore.
Yeah. Why was it something we should ignore last year?
That I want to dip into for a second. When protests cross into anti-Semitism, it hurts the Palestinian cause.
I mean, let's just note that Xanderhal, and who makes his money off the fact that he used to be a neo-Nazi, has said some pretty anti-Semitic shit in his stream.
A group of radical protesters who claim to be for the Palestinian cause in New York City bragged online that they, quote, shut down the Nova exhibit on Wall Street and played out their day of rage throughout the subway system against some museums and museum directors and on the New York City streets, and even hit some UN missions.
This sounds like a summary. Like, could we actually hear what they said? Would that be too much to ask?
In reality, they didn't shut down the Nova exhibit. The exhibit will probably get more attendees than anticipated, and its presentation has been extended. The exhibit, which originated in Israel, presents oral history and artifacts of the horrific October 7th, 2023 attack by Hamas on thousands of mostly Generation Z and millennial Israelis who were...
Which is an interesting way of saying, like, fucking cops and soldiers.
At a rave enjoying music, drugs, and dancing. You know, pretty standard pastime.
I mean, yeah, sometimes you have a rave outside of a concentration camp. Right outside of a military base, it's worth noting as well.
The Nova Music Festival at Kibbutz Re'im, I think is how it's pronounced, Re'im?
And no, Re'im, which is also the site of the headquarters of the Gaza division. It's worth noting that is basically never mentioned in English language reporting.
Where Hamas killed at least 364 civilians.
That is not... Okay, first of all, at least is an interesting turn of phrase here, because the total number of people who were killed, civilians and military, was 364. Not all of them were killed by the Palestinian resistance. We know that from eyewitness testimony, we know that from survivors, we know that from the IDF themselves. It is not at all clear who killed most of them and under what circumstances. And a lot of them were military. In fact, the reason that the rave was taking place by Kibbutz Re'im was specifically so that IDF soldiers from the Gaza division on leave could participate easily, so it would be conveniently located.
And took around 40 hostages. This is all verified, mind you.
No, it actually isn't. This is not verified. This is the exact opposite of verified. In fact, we know that U.S. helicopters with Israeli pilots were firing on the site of the rave. We know that they actually had to reload. They emptied out their missiles. They were firing just completely at random at any vehicle that was moving. And that they probably killed hundreds of people. It is not at all clear how many of them were killed by whom and under what circumstances. Also, you have to keep in mind that the timeline is really interesting, because the Palestinian offensive officially began at 6:30 a.m. local time. It began with a barrage of rockets and firing on the watchtowers around the camp perimeter, and the automatic machine gun nests and various other things. According to the organizers of the Supernova Rave, first of all, it's important to note, they weren't planning on actually having it go on until that Saturday. That was a spontaneous decision. According to the Israeli cops and the Israeli intelligence, this was reported in Haaretz nearly 2 years ago now. There was no way the Palestinians could possibly have actually known that this was going to be taking place that day at all, because it was not supposed to. It was a spontaneous last-minute decision to have it then and there. It was supposed to go until that Friday, and they extended it one day on the spur of the moment. So a few minutes after 6:30 a.m., the rave breaks up, and most people immediately go home. They leave. There were 4,400 people there total, it's worth noting. Now, here's the interesting thing. Now, they didn't hear gunshots until 10 minutes later. Now, the thing is that, according to Israeli Air Force Colonel Nof Erez, who was talking about the Air Force response on the 7th of October, by 7:15, the Gaza division, which again is in Re'im, was already incommunicado. They had already shut down the Gaza division. And even the battalion level as well. So the thing becomes that there's an extremely tight timeline here. Because at 7:15, the U.S. Apache helicopters with Israeli pilots were already in the air and opening fire with no target banks, with no comms, with no command and control, just at random. So it is a very open question exactly what happened there. And Israel has largely wrecked the physical evidence, so it will be very difficult to ever know.
And on top of that, this has been verified as the largest killing of Jews in a single day since the Holocaust.
I mean, that's also wrong. Yeah, this is 11... I mean, there's no excuse for him to say this shit. I mean, the reason that they try to claim that this is the largest killing of Jews since the Holocaust is that the actual largest killing of Jews since the Holocaust was in Argentina, under a dictatorship that was armed by Israel.
That's what kicked off what's happening right now. Young people, security guards, and more. Not all Jews, also Bedouin citizens of Israel. I don't know what that means.
Well, maybe that's a pretty basic thing not to know the meaning of. Maybe just shut the fuck up.
The group within our lifetime, shamefully called the Nova Exhibit, or the group within our lifetime, shamefully called the Nova Exhibit Zionist propaganda.
It literally is Zionist propaganda, though. That's not, I mean, that's not even an interpretation. That's literally what it is. It is an official Israeli government exhibit designed to promote the Israeli government's largely refuted narrative of what went down.
And said it was manufacturing consent for genocide.
Which
But
it
perhaps
is.
The basest action, well, not based, but like base as in like the thing that you do the most, that you stand for or by the hardest. The basest action taken by these protesters was when they filled a subway car on their way to their downtown protest, essentially taking it over and challenging past...
So wait, the basest thing they did was to ride the subway? Wow, that's terrible. They rode the fucking MTA. What a fucking nightmare.
...passengers to come forward and admit their Zionism. Raise your hand if you are...
Like, what is he reading here? He's not actually showing us what he's reading. But this, I mean, clearly sounds like he's reading a bullshit pro-Israel source. Let me see if I can find... I'm going to see if I can use a quote and pull this thing up. Find out what the actual source of it is.
The basest action taken by these protesters...
That'll be a good phrase to use. Okay, this is from The Guardian by Joanne Mort, who is explicitly explicitly pro-genocide. It's worth noting. Okay, I'm gonna just drop the link here in chat to what he's reading, which is just, it is an op-ed, and it does not appear to actually cite any fucking sources. So here we go. This is what he's reading. Okay, let me read their statement on here. Why we protested Nova. Like, would she avoid... Yeah, I'm going to link this in chat as well. It is linked in the article that he's reading in this op-ed. Okay. On Monday, June 10th, Within Our Lifetime called for a citywide day of rage for Gaza in response to the U.S.-sponsored massacre in Nusayrat camp that killed over 270 Palestinians and left more than 700 wounded as part of the ongoing genocide being carried out against the Palestinian people. New Yorkers responded by flooding the streets and shutting down the Zionist propaganda Nova Exhibition NYC, currently installed at 35 Wall Street, in defiance of the NYPD's growing brutality against protesters. Now, if Xanderhal were at all serious about this, if he actually gave a fuck about getting things right, or even like some level of balance, he would actually read their statement, which is linked in the article he is reading. Within Our Lifetime strongly reiterates our call for sustained action against any institution facilitating or justifying the genocide of the Palestinian people, including the Nova Exhibition, for as long as it is in New York and any city it will travel to next. Okay. Do they discuss this? Official government sources, I'm skipping a bit. Official government sources and mainstream news publications reporting of the rescue of the 4 hostages has obscured the Nusayrat massacre, which also saw 3 other Israeli hostages, including 1 American, killed by the genocidal IOF themselves, and the IOF's violence at Nova broadly. As Within Our Lifetime chair Nadine Kiswani wrote, if y'all really cared about what happened at Nova, why is nobody talking about the Israeli occupation forces gunning down their own people and burning down cars with the missile strikes, or the fact that they killed many hostages in Gaza? This exhibit is pure propaganda, end quote. Israeli lives have never been a priority for the IOF, made clear by the existence and practice of the Hannibal Directive on October 7th. The Israeli occupation has also rejected multiple offers by resistance fighters to free all hostages in exchange for a ceasefire, showing that the massacre of Palestinians and the decimation of Gaza is more valuable to them than the so-called rescue of their hostages. The Nova exhibition serves only one purpose: to make this level of colonial violence acceptable to the U.S. public. Manufactured consent has been pushed forth in a myriad of ways since October, including this exhibition that is traveling throughout the U.S. cities. A recent article in Time Out states that, quote, the Nova Music Festival exhibition seems to urge viewers to focus on what happened on October 7th and not muse over the events that preceded or came after, end quote. The imagery it foregrounds, the emotions it elicits, the decades of context it buries are designed to convey that the Zionist entity is justified in committing a genocide. This traveling apartheid apologia serves the same goal as the false claims of 40 beheaded babies, the weaponization of sexual assault, and other projections from the Zionist entity about October 7th that have been widely debunked. It also includes photos. If you look at this, here, okay, I'm gonna just switch over, get this into the window so you can see what these photos that it includes. Okay, so here we have cards written by patrons at the end of the Nova exhibition, and read this shit. Let me see, can you see it? Like, one of them says, our unity will let us heal the Gazans are all Amalek, they should be wiped off the face of the earth. Okay. So, just straight up, just genocidal shit going on. So that's what he's talking about. And he, again, the absolute minimum effort, he could have found this statement and not just heard what some liberal Zionist is saying about it. But he doesn't make the minimum effort, because he doesn't give a fuck. He's not as polished a prick as Destiny, but he's on the exact same wavelength.
This was when they filled a subway car on their way to their downtown protest, essentially taking it over and challenging passengers to come forward and admit their Zionism.
Let me just see, does this article say anything about this? Because I'd like to know whether they would agree with this description, because I'm fairly certain they wouldn't. Like, literally all of the sources making this claim that he is regurgitating are pro-Israel propaganda sources, or they are quoting pro-Israel propaganda sources. Like, I'm not seeing anyone else say that this actually even happened.
Raise your hand if you are a Zionist, one activist reportedly shouted at the rest of the group, echoing his words. Quote, there is your chance to get it out, or this is your chance to get it out. Get out. Of what? Unclear, but frightening as hell. When no one responded, the same person apparently announced, okay, no Zionists here, we're good. As someone chimed in, reportedly, quote, we don't want no Zionists here.
Yeah, I mean, and what's wrong with that? It's a fucking horrible, racist, genocidal ideology. Fuck Zionism.
They were followed by applause. I wondered, reading this unsettling tale, what I would have done.
What's unsettling about it? So people didn't want there to be racists, and nobody came forward and said that they were one.
Had I been in that subway car, I wear a Jewish star around my neck, so even had I not spoken up to say, yes, I'm a Zionist.
I mean, some of the protesters will almost certainly have been Jewish.
The question might have been asked of me. The perpetrators were put any Jew in the subway car in a situation where they would have to...
The perpetrators. I mean, remember, he's talking about how supposedly, protest will be criminalized. It's going to happen. And here we have, like, a propaganda article calling the protesters the perpetrators. I mean, of what? Of saying that Zionism sucks, which Zionism sucks.
Their true identity, or say yes in fear that what would happen to them. Say no if that aligned with their belief system, while knowing that this answer could put other Jews in danger.
Why would it put... Wait, most Zionists are not Jews. Like, I mean, it isn't even close. In the U.S., there are roughly, according to polls, about 150 million Zionists. There are 14 million Jews on Earth. Not all of us are Zionists. So, yeah, like, shut the fuck up.
The final option would be to hope that the next stop came quickly and flee the train, knowing that they are not safe in the New York City subway system simply because of who they are.
I mean, simply because they support a racist ideology.
This is just one example. But Bedouins are nomadic Arabs, I believe? Oh, okay, cool. Anyway.
Like, he doesn't know what a fucking Bedouin is. Shut the fuck up.
Overall, the movement is a passionate one centered around a sincere rage over, I think, what we've all seen, which is a lot of televised murder of Palestinians. I mean, we've all seen at least one video of, like, a lifeless Palestinian child being pulled out of the rubble. We've all probably seen at least one. The news does not shy from showing it.
I mean, the news does shy from showing it, and Xanderhal really shies from showing it, although maybe now he'll care about it.
Social media feeds do not shy from showing it, and a lot of people are pissed about
Actually, this stuff gets shadow banned on social media.
it and are rightfully protesting. But anti-Semites...
Which is, I mean, they didn't describe anything anti-Semitic. There's literally nothing anti-Semitic that's been described yet. On the other hand, I mean, Xanderhal has actually supported literal neo-Nazi shit. That's anti-Semitic.
There are leftists who will claim otherwise, but this is just not true. For the most part, anti-Semites hate Israel.
That's not true. That is actually bullshit. In fact, Zionists have been said from the very beginning that they consider anti-Semites to be allies. Trump is anti-Semitic as fuck and extremely pro-Israel. Like, all the people around him, anti-Semitic as fuck. They love Israel. There was that guy, one of the 54 white Afrikaner Nazis who get to be fake refugees coming from South Africa. And he's a neo-Nazi, and he also loves Israel. This is actually quite normal. Like, shut the fuck up. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Xanderhal. Just, like, could you go, like, eat out your own asshole or something?
And right now, you've got people like Sneeko and people like Hassan basically saying the same takes, the same things about the same topic. And I think that demonstrates not that, like, a broken clock is right twice a day. It's that, like, there is an alliance to be made, or that wants to be made, between actual anti-Semites and the pro-Palestine anti-Zionist movement.
I mean, that is just so fucking dishonest of him. He hasn't actually explained what he means by the same takes. He hasn't actually explained any of that. He's not giving any examples. And now, what is true, though he puts it in a way that is supposed to actually smear supporters of Palestinian rights as anti-Semites, which it's worth noting is anti-Semitic because it also is conflating Zionism with Jews, something that he just did, and something the article he was reading also just did. But here's the thing. Yeah, it's true that white supremacists try to weasel their way into Palestinian solidarity spaces in order to hijack the movement and move it away from support for Palestinian rights and anti-imperialism and toward all sorts of anti-Semitic bullshit. It is also very true that you have pricks like Jake Shields and a bunch of other people, Hinks and Jackal, who are, like, farming clout off the blood of the Palestinians. They're just Nazis, but they claim to give a shit about Palestinians. They, like, copy the quotes of actual, like, supporters of Palestinian rights and stuff like that, and then they go viral, and they get a whole bunch of fucking viewers because the people only see this one thing that they said which sounds okay, and nobody bothers to check what else they say. But to say that, I mean, what he's saying here is just bullshit.
Because the fact is, Nazis fucking hate Israel.
That's not true, actually. Nazis are divided on Israel.
And this might be the most significant anti-Israel push there's ever been in America.
I wonder why that is.
And the Nazis are taking advantage of it. They're going like undercover PSYOP style at these protests. They're getting the microphone and they're pushing actually anti-Semitic propaganda, hoping...
Yeah, and the thing is, the Palestinian Solidarity Movement has a history of kicking these pricks out when they find them. Because unlike Zionists, it actually damages our movement to be associated with people like that, because it's an anti-racist movement. Zionists have absolutely no compunction about hanging out with neo-Nazis, with extremely anti-Semitic people, because they don't have a problem with that. It actually helps them, because people like that scare Jews, and they need scared Jews in order to try to make up the numbers in Palestine.
But they can trick the crowd into cheering for it because they're so hopped up in anti-Israel sentiment. And so there have been some pretty problematic clips, for example, of speakers with megaphones saying, like, borderline blood and soil propaganda.
I mean, Zionism, it's worth noting, is literally a blood and soil ideology.
About Jews in Israel. And it's like, yeah, there are some bad apples in the bunch, and we can't deny that if we're going to like have this conversation.
Maybe the fact that you don't even know what a Bedouin is and are looking at some debunked propaganda and just saying, yeah, that's verified. Maybe you shouldn't be having this conversation, actually, Xanderhal.
But at the same time, we need to make sure that we don't let them turn the conversation into a derailment focused on, like, you're insane folks like Bad and Banata or whatever. And instead, we try to keep the conversation focused on, yeah, but how many more innocent Palestinians has Israel killed than Hamas has killed innocent Jews, for instance? Like, there's clearly a disproportionate situation going on here where Israel...
You think, Xanderhal? I mean, they've killed possibly as much as 700,000 people in less than 2 years. You think that maybe there's a bit of a disproportion going on there?
Israel has the onus to act with more care to not kill countless civilians.
In fact, they have the onus not to act at all. They literally have no right to be in Gaza at all. The whole thing is fucking illegal.
And not destroy infrastructure, all the while instituting policy saying, yeah, you all have to move to this part of Gaza now as we carpet bomb the rest. Sorry.
Well, except they bomb the place that they send them to.
And Trump moves to make it into some weird coastal resort, you know? Like, we need to keep focused on the actual issues here.
This is him keeping focused on the actual issues.
But we can't just deny that there is anti-Semitism, because we do want to have some level of policing of people in this movement.
You're not in this movement. Maybe shut the fuck up.
A kid over at Columbia University right now. Emily, I saw something happening behind you right before we came to you. What's the situation looking like right now, and how many people have been removed?
Well, Gotti, arrests are still underway as we speak. So far, I've counted 78 people ushered out by the NYPD of the library, which you can see behind me just ahead of finals week.
Yeah, okay. Just by way of comparison, in 2024 at the protests, over 100 people were arrested by May 2024 already.
Large essentially walked out in twos, flanked by police, their hands behind their back, tied with zip ties. One protester had just shouted "Free Palestine" as they had been ushered out by the police. This comes after demonstrations flooded into the school's library earlier this afternoon. Columbia University posting a series of updates and statements. We're saying that for the protesters who refused to leave and refused to provide identification and disperse, they could face
So they had a sit-in, is what they're describing.
arrest. Well, several hours later, they called in the NYPD, and that is what you see behind me. There are barricades, there are special response teams who have been going in and out of the library that university officials say had.
Mike, as far as I know, they hadn't hurt anybody. Like this was very much a case of civil disobedience protest, where like, yeah, what you're doing is technically against the law, but they make a very big show out of the fact that no one's getting hurt, and that in response, police are like, you know, forcefully.
Yeah, which is exactly what happened last year as well.
And all you're doing is expressing your beliefs without hurting anybody. It's meant to create that image of this is what the police state will do if you say the things that they don't want you saying with too much attention on you. That they will shut you down, and even though you're not hurting anybody, and they will shut down
Wow.
and have an audience to speak. And it's the government. It's the police doing it, not like getting banned on Twitter. This is what actual censorship looks like. Yes, they were breaking the law, but the point of a protest like this is to show that the police have laws they can.
Actually, I mean, it's not entirely clear that they were breaking the law, because it was literally a study in the library. These are students who have a right to be in the library, doing the thing that the library is there for. They actually, there was a bunch of people studying for finals, and also wearing clothes that indicated slogans supporting Palestinian rights.
Work upon when they want to shut down certain speech they don't like.
Been occupied by protesters. It's not just tension spilling over inside of the campus, but also outside. Maybe about 50 yards or so from where I'm standing. You might even be able to make.
But Jude is not equal Zionist. Nine tails Fox 2. That depends on who you ask. That depends on who you ask.
Oh, shut the fuck up. No, it doesn't depend on who you ask. Yeah, Zionists and other anti-Semitic assholes equate them.
Hamas considers Zionist and Jew synonymous.
No, they do not.
Like,
That's just a lie, actually. If you read their 2017 charter, they're very clear. Their problem is with Zionists. In fact, if you can go back further than that, Sheikh Yassin gave a speech like in the early 2000s, and he said, "We don't have a problem with Jews. Jews are people of faith. We're cool with Jews. The problem is people who have come into our country, kicked us out of our land. If my own brother does that, I would fight him too." Like, so no, Hamas does not say the Jew equals Zionist.
Clear. Hamas and the people who support Hamas, the apologists for Hamas online, consider Zionist and Jew to mean the same thing.
No, they don't. I mean, this is like, seriously, read a fucking book sometimes, Xanderhal. Like, try, learn something.
They will oftentimes not say it, some do, but that is what they believe.
No, I mean, it literally is not.
Famously, remember the Houthi teenager Hassan brought on screen?
Yes, actually, first of all, he was not actually a member of the Ansar Allah movement. And second of all, Hassan specifically asked him what he thought of the fact that there were, pro-Palestinian organizations led by Jews in the U.S. And what he said is, anyone who's for Palestine is with us.
Like, he's actually posted a bunch of tweets where he expresses, like, there is no fundamental difference between the Jew and the Zionist.
I mean, he specifically said that he's cool with Jews who are pro-Palestine.
And pointed at, like, the stats of how many Jews support Israel globally compared to are against it.
Yeah, so what? I mean, that's...
And said, see, Jew and
Let's just remember his Twitter feed is almost entirely in Arabic. So, Xanderhal can't read that shit. So what the fuck's he talking about?
Zionist might as well mean the same thing. The Houthi Luffy, yeah. Dude, all the Hassan fans were, like, thirsting over for, like, 6 months. Not all Jews are Zionists, yeah, but, like, to anti-Semites, Jew and Zionist means the same thing.
Yeah, and that includes Zionists. They also say that.
Like, that's what I'm trying to express to you guys. To anti-Semites, it means the same thing. Like, that anti-Semites make no distinction between...
Actually, no, I mean, even Even anti-Semites do not actually use them always to mean the same thing. Because again, there are anti-Semitic Zionists, like the Christian Zionists, who are the overwhelming majority of the Zionist movement. They know that Zionist and Jew are not the same thing because they're Zionists, very proudly Zionists, and they're not Jewish. Like, so shut the fuck up. God, this motherfucker is like punishment for knowing anything.
They got the demonstration still underway right now.
But I just noticed the time. It is time to wrap up. So thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be back tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you then.